doing so well today. If you're new here, welcome to my channel, and if you're not new here, welcome back. I'm so grateful that you decided to click on today's video. For today's video, I am going to be doing my top 5 favorite books of 2024. I might go over 5 books just because I've read some really good ones this year. Before I jump into that, I want to do a quick update for all of my beautiful stars. If you don't want to listen to the update, I'll have a timestamp on the screen. No harm, no foul. If you don't want to listen to it, that's totally fine. Quick update, try and keep it under 30 seconds. Basically, the last 2 months, my work life has been crazy hectic, and it's starting to finally slow down as the holidays are getting closer. I'm hoping to take some more time over the next couple of weeks to film content for you all. I just really want to thank you so much for getting me to 800 subscribers. Last I checked, I think I had a little over that. Thank you very much. Honestly, means the world to me. I have been on YouTube for 14 years. I started when I was 12 and I'm 26 now, so that is crazy pants. I just like, I know that 12-year-old me would be ecstatic that she had gotten to this point, and I couldn't have gotten here without you guys, obviously. So huge thank you. And we're on the road to 1,000, so if you are new and you're listening to this update, please consider subscribing. I create book content, fashion content, thrifting content, basically everything that makes my heart happy, and if it sounds like it'll make your heart happy, I would love to have you. So that is the end of the update. Let's get into my top 5 books of 2024. So I do use Goodreads. I've thought about using, is it like Storybook is the other one? I think I'm very rusty on that stuff, but I do like Goodreads and like how it's laid out. But if you have any other recommendations, I'm open to them all. Comment down below your pros and cons to each one if you want, and I would love to read it. I have a couple of physical ones in front of me, and then a lot of them were either library books, they were audiobooks that I listened to via Libby or Spotify, because if you don't know already, Spotify Premium allows you 15 hours of audiobook time. And then if you go past that, you can choose to purchase like top-offs or whatever and finish listening to that book. But I try to reach like for those books that are maybe 3 hours or 8 hours, so then I can get maybe 2 to 3 books in a month if I decide to listen to a lot of audiobooks. My book goal is 40 books. I reached over that by just a few books. Very I am at like 44 and I'm reading 2 more currently, so I'm hoping to get to 46 by year's end. Comment down below your year of books. Like, let me know how many you read, whether it was 5 or it was 150. I would love to hear it, and your top 5 favorites. Okay, enough jibber jabber. Number 1 for me, honestly, I think about this book all the time, is Abby Jimenez, Just for the Summer. This looks a little rough. I found it at a little free library. I do have that video. I can link it up in the cards if I remember. Otherwise, it was, I think, one of my more recent little free library hunting videos. This was the advanced reader's copy. I literally saw this in the facing window of the little free library, and I frequent this one a lot, and it gets a lot of ARCs, which is really fun and one of my favorite reasons for stopping by at this one. Abby Jimenez actually lives in Minnesota, so it's not a surprise that I would find one of her books in a little free library, just because she happens to like drop them off in little free libraries all around like cities near me. It's always fun to like find one. Got this one, and I read this in July, finished it on vacation. When I'm on vacation, there's just like something in the air. I will like just suck down a book like crazy. I will just want to read the whole thing in a day. So I usually can hit some of my goals like very quickly, because when I go on vacation, that's all I want to do is read, besides like going to the beach and stuff. But my friends are also the same way, so we were all reading by the pool, we were all reading at the beach. This book got passed around through my whole friend group, and they all said the same thing. It was so good, and I read it in like 2 days. So if you have not read this book yet, I'd highly recommend it, whether you rent it at the library, through Libby, whatever. Highly recommend. And it's got my seal of approval. It has my little embossing stamp in here that my sister got me for my birthday last year, so I'm gonna keep this book forever. It is so good, and it set me on the track to read all of her other books. So I requested to read them through Goodreads, and I ended up reading Yours Truly. That one I read more recently. I actually purchased a few books. I have Part of Your World, and I think I just got Friend Zone at half price. I'm so excited to read the rest of them. So far, Just for the Summer and Yours Truly, both 5-star reads for me. I just love her writing style. I think it just fits, like, it just tickles my brain perfectly, and I really enjoy her writing. So if you have not read her books, again, I would consider it, and highly consider it, or recommend it. Oh my gosh, I can't speak. Next book is an audiobook, but I ended up finding it at the thrift store, so I could always reread it or give it to one of my friends to read, and it is Christina Lauren's The Unhoneymooners. And while listening to this, it was my second Christina Lauren book. I didn't know that they were 2 authors. This is such a funny book and it's really cute. Similar vibes to some of Abby Jimenez stuff. So if you like the rom-com vibe, contemporary romance, I would highly recommend it. This was kind of enemies to lovers, so if you also really like the trope, I recommend that. Honeymooners. It was very funny. And I'm gonna keep my little reviews and why they're my favorites to a minimum, just because I don't want to give away too much and I also don't want to jibber jabber. That's a fun word. I don't want to chit chat too long. My next favorite book, so number 3, would be Swift and Saddled by Lila Sage, and this is the Rebel Blue Ranch book series. So I like Done and Dusted as well, which is the first book, and then Swift and Saddled is the third, and Lost and Lassoed is the most recent one. She's going to release a 4th book, which is so exciting, and I've actually only listened to these via audiobook. So they are on Spotify Premium, and then I've seen them on Libby. I mean, Libby, I think it depends on your libraries and your location. I really like whoever is like the narrators for this. They hired a man and a woman to read this, and I really like just like the back and forth. Sometimes I love when a woman will like take on the male's voice, but I think it's fun when there are 2 different narrators. I think it makes the story come to life just a little bit more. So I really enjoyed that book, and honestly all of them in the series that I've read so far, and I would recommend them to anybody. So that's number 3. I've been wanting to read Alice Hoffman books for quite a while, and I hadn't really gotten into any of them, although I own a couple of her books. I own Practical Magic, and I also own not Magic Lessons, because that's the book I did read, but there's another one in the series, and it's all about the Owen sisters. So if you are into the movie Practical Magic and you love witchy vibes, whimsy gothic stuff, highly recommend the books by Alice Hoffman. And she's also the author of Aquamarine, so if you grew up watching Aquamarine, there is a book to go with it. So I'm on the hunt for that one at the thrift store personally, so I can read it. I think that one's a little bit more geared towards a younger age, but I know I'll enjoy it. So at the library, when I started dipping my toes into going back to the library, I found Alice Hoffman's Magic Lessons, which is the 0.1, so like a prequel to Practical Magic. And I think there's like 2 prequels to the book Practical Magic, and then it keeps going on. And I think there are 4 books in the series so far. She might be coming out with a 5th. It was a slow start for me, I'm gonna be honest. The chapters laid out were really hard for me to get through because I'm definitely like a chapter to chapter kind of girl. I don't like to just finish a book or like stop reading in the middle of a chapter, because then I'm like, when I get back into it, I'm like, what did I read last time, especially if it's been a minute. It was set by like parts and also by year, so there would be like 1671 or something, and then that would be like 70 pages, and I was like, oh, this is a lot for me, because I just, you know, ADHD brain, I wanted to just read a little bit of a chapter and then walk away and be able to pick it back up and start a new chapter. That wasn't happening with this book, but something was in me one afternoon, 3 o'clock, I pick it up. And I'm like, it's due soon, I should start reading this. I was sucked in. The story is so good, it's very beautiful, and I highly recommend it. 5-star read for me. It was one of my first 5 stars in a while, and this was in August, or late July actually. So I'd read just for the summer, and then I read a couple books after that, listened to a couple, and then I finished Magic Lessons, and I just loved it. Okay, so I read Ali Hazelwood's The Love Hypothesis when it came out, was that like 2021, 2022? And I read it literally New Year's Eve, I finished it. It was my last book of that year, whatever year it was, and I liked it a lot. It was really cute. It was definitely kind of like a slow burn. I was waiting for the spice to kick in because I'm not a big like super spicy reader, but I like a little bit of it. When there's a lot, especially in an audiobook, I'm like, I can't believe I'm listening to this right now. Reading it, you know, it's like a secret. So knowing that I had read one of her books before, I wasn't really sure what her other books would be like, and one of my friends, Megan, she's a big reader as well, and she had read, was it like Love on the Brain, and she didn't like it as much as The Love Hypothesis. So then I was like, ooh, like, will I like her other books then? Because I guess they got really scientific, which I think is kind of fun. I really like that about Ali Hazelwood's books because there's not a lot out there like that, at least as far as I know. And I enjoy science, but I'm not a scientist or, you know lots about it, but it's still fun to read. Anyways, saw Love theoretically at the library, and the library that I frequent, I go to 2, but one of my favorites is like the size of a tiny cabin. It is very, very tiny. And the adult fiction section is 2 shelves. So it's very small, and they do have newer releases, but they go very fast because there's many people that frequent that library. I was very surprised to find it on the shelf, like it was already put back, and I'm like, snatched. Read it in like 2 days. so good. I love this book. It was just perfectly spicy. I think the romance aspect was good. There wasn't a lot of cringy moments for me personally, and I know that can be easily done with like spicier books. It can be kind of cringy sometimes with like the dialogue back and forth. I guess some of it's just maybe not my cup of tea, but I thought she did it really well. And if you are looking to read more of Allie's books, then I would recommend Love Theoretically. It was a really good one. And then I would say number 5 is X's and O's by Amelia, and this was also a library find, and it was at the same library, and I walked past it a couple times since I'd like frequented the library a few times this past summer into the fall. I was like, oh, do I want to read that? Do I not? It was so cute. So I guess it was number 2 in this influencer series that Amelia has, but you didn't have to read the first book. Like, they're standalone books, much like Abby Jimenez books, where you can read each story as its own, and if you happen to read them in order or you've read the other books, you start to see the connections with different characters. So I know when I read the first book of this series, I'll be like, oh, that's where that person comes in. And what I liked about it is it was set around Valentine's Day, and it was a book Instagram or so like kind of like a book talker, and she would go live and talk about books and stuff, and then she ended up moving in with this firefighter, and it was like a random arrangement, and you know what happens from there. So it was cute. It was definitely a perfect palette cleanser between some of the books I had been reading at the time, so really enjoyed that one. And just some honorable mentions is One Girl in All the World, which is by Kendar Blake, and this is in Every Generation number 2. I didn't know that there was 2 books, but it's a Buffy the Vampire Slayer series. It takes place like several years later, and there's a new Sunnydale. This is definitely very YA, but I ate it up. It was good. It had me hooked, and especially since I've rewatched Buffy several times in my lifetime. The first time I ever watched it was when I was in 8th grade, and that was like 12 years ago. Oh my gosh. Yeah, and I was obsessed. And my oldest sister grew up when, like, she was in high school when Buffy was like on TV, and so I remember her being obsessed with it too. It's a show that so many generations can love and find like interest in, so I think that's really cool. This book is really fun, and if you like Buffy or Angel, any kind of supernatural, love that one. I found that at the library as well. And most recently, my last audiobook of the year I decided was Haunted Ever After by Jen DeLuca. I've never read or listened to any of Jen DeLuca's books before, but this is number 1 in the Boneyard Key series. It's set in Florida, and it's a town called Boneyard Key, and it's right on the beach there, so kind of reminds me of like, I visited Florida a lot as a kid and into my adulthood, and I love Florida. I find it very beautiful. I know people that live there are probably like, what? And I have family that lives there too, so I feel like there's just like a special place in my heart for Florida. My friends and I went to West Palm Beach this past summer. I've actually never been there. I was like, this is surprising, a place I've never been to in Florida. The way she described Boneyard Key reminded me a lot of, I went to this town called Ruskin twice when I was in high school. I really loved Ruskin, and it kind of reminded me of that. There was like a little drive-in, and it was just really cute, or kind of like a Fort Myers Beach vibe. So if you live in Florida or you like Florida, you might like this book, and it's also supernatural, as you can tell by the Haunted Ever After title. It is a romance, but the romance really just kind of intertwines in the background, but the supernatural entities are a big part of this book, and it's so fun. So Boneyard Key is a very haunted town, and it reminds me of a city that I live close to as well that very much takes part in like the ghosts and the supernatural that infiltrate the city. So I was like finding a lot to relate to in a way, but their like cafes they're all ghostly, supernatural, afterlife puns. So it's really fun, and I liked the narrator of this. I think the narrator for an audiobook really makes or breaks the book. It was really enjoyable, and I loved that. Please let me know down below what books you liked in 2024, what were your 4 or 5-star reads. I would love to know and add some to my TBR. I'm hoping to stick to what I own. I have a lot of books, and I did do a book tour a couple years ago, like a bookshelf tour. So if you want to watch that, I'll have that linked in the cards, or you can find it on my channel. That is all. I hope that you liked today's chatty video, and I'm so grateful to be back and so grateful for all of you. Again, thank you for 800 subscribers. That means so much to me, and I can't wait to see what 2025 has in store for all of us. I will see you in my next video. Until then, shine bright. Bye!